This episode was sponsored by Right Angles Framing and Art. At Right Angles Framing and Art, we thrive on bringing a quirky and unique touch to the world of picture framing. We love to... She has been captivating audiences for years with her wit and charm, straight from the networking floor to give you all the dirt. It's Dusta! Hi, y'all, and welcome to another exciting episode of Down Home Dirt, the show where we dive deep into the journey of entrepreneurship with the people who took the plunge and the ups and downs that come with it. I'm your host, Dusta. Thank you guys for joining us for another episode. I am so excited. Today, our guest is Cheryl, and we wanted to ask you, what's the name of your company? I forgot to ask before we started.
Oh, that's okay. So it's Hershenberg and Stone-Walsh Insurance. That's based out of Arizona. So everyone knows me as Cheryl Bujold, just the Cheryl Bujold.
I love it. I would never have been able to pronounce it. I do have a tongue tie, so I thank you for taking that for me. So we're going to jump right in it today. Can you tell everybody like where you're from and how you ended up in Clayton of all places? It's a small town.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Dusta. I'm super excited to because I'm new to Clayton in North Carolina. I'm really excited to be talking to you today and letting people learn who I am. So I'm originally from New York City to be specific, and grew up there. Moved out to Arizona in 2008. Spent 15 years there, and I'll fill in some gaps, but just the short path was out to there, and then to here just last July. So just hit 1 year anniversary in North Carolina in Clayton.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well,
so all my
welcome.
relationships are new, and I gotta tell you, it feels like I've been here a long time, which it's good. It's not a negative thing at all. It's wonderful.
No, I was just talking to my last episode with Jess from Right Angles, and we were talking about how she's also not from here, and neither am I. But it was such a relief when we decided to jump in that Clayton is such a very supporting community, and you feel like this is home almost immediately when you're here, and people are happy to support you. So I'm really glad to see that everyone else is experiencing it as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Um, so my long story is, growing up, typical New York City, everybody knew each other on the street, and, everybody's parent was your parent, and that kind of situation. Grew up with a group of friends that we are today still friends. And so that's one of the reasons that I am in Clayton, is because one of my childhood friends moved here from New York 3 years ago. And so my husband and I had been talking about wanting to get back to the East Coast for the last few years. And our sons were finally ready to be on their own. And
Yay!
so we just we made the move, got us back to the East Coast. And this was a perfect place because my older son went to New York. My parents are in Florida. And it's been really great being closer to the family this last year.
I feel that. I'm from South New York, also known as Florida, where you everyone laughs when I say that, and I just have to be very like, guys, I grew up in Florida. However, my influence was a lot of people from New York live there and New Jersey, and that's what I just grew up around. So I
Yes.
have a lot of that influence, and that's why I swear a lot. We don't do it on the podcast, but I swear a lot, and
Yeah.
I'm very blunt and straight to the point. And it was a culture shock when I moved here, and I was like, I'm sorry, I have to dance around. Okay, well, that's what we're doing. So, which is good. I'm not saying it's negative. Actually, that's the entire reason I moved here, was to get away from so blunt, because it was kind of affecting my mental health a little bit. So coming here to like such
Yes.
a supportive area has been fabulous for my mental health. It's doing much better than it once was.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring that up because, I think as adults, it's so much harder to make friends. Kids, you just move and you throw them into school, and it's like, okay, now they've got, 30 new friends, in their classmates, and or after school activities or sports or whatever. But, as adults, I know adults who have moved and never got involved in anything, and you're home and you don't meet anybody, and
No.
it's hard. But I think being a business person, I had no choice but to throw myself into the community so I could start making connections. And it has formed friendships. Like the lines are so blurred between the professional and the friendship, um, which is incredible.
It
It's
is. And I love that. And that's like another reason why I love being an entrepreneur and doing this podcast, because I get to talk to people and get the real raw, like what's going on, and share their story as well. But
yeah.
also it's kind of therapeutic for me because now I can connect and go, oh, I'm not the only person going through whatever it is. So that's something else I kind of wanted to highlight. So tell us about what you do.
So I am an independent health insurance broker. So I stress independent because I'm not tied to a particular insurance company. Um, so whether you need health insurance as an individual, I can help you on the marketplace. If you are of Medicare age, I can help you with your Medicare. Or if you're a business owner and you want to offer employee benefits, I can work with business owners. And I really actually I love it all. I love helping people in every sector, but helping businesses is kind of unique because of all of the tools. And, I might refer to my company a lot. Um, so just to kind of tell you a little bit about the company I'm with, been with them 15 years. I am part owner of the company. They're in Arizona. And when I decided to move, I was not going to leave my clients or leave my company. So I had a whole speech in my head that I was going to pitch my partners because with COVID, I never went back to the office. So we're a small group of people. There are 6 of us, and we have been working for the most part, like the core 4 of us have been working together since the beginning. We take trips together, we hang out. So that's been the hardest part of my move, is because like I'm away from that now. But we're very, very, very tight, very close. So, but with COVID, me and one other person never went back to the office. We just decided working from home worked for us. We had already, adapted how to work with our clients remotely. And so I didn't really feel the need to be in the office. We weren't going out and visiting clients the way we used to. Because, girl, I put some miles on my car driving around that valley. Um, so I had a whole plan in my head. I gave him a year's notice to not even notice, but a year to like get comfortable with the fact that Cheryl wasn't going to be in town anymore, but that nothing was going to change. And I didn't even need to give my pitch. My partners were just like, oh, well, of course you're going to keep working, right? And I'm like, absolutely. So I had this wonderful safety net of being able to move across the country and not have to look for a job.
That's amazing.
Yeah, just so I moved here July 1st last year, and fourth quarter is our busiest time of year. And so I didn't even do any networking or do anything to meet anybody here in Clayton until after the new year, because I was just gearing up for, my entire client base in Arizona for fourth quarter. And so January came and I hit the ground running because I wanted to start branching my business here. So like I said, I'm just like Cheryl to everybody here, because like, who cares who the long company name is? It's, it doesn't mean anything. But I've got these resources. I've got these amazing people back there who are they're my back room. They're handling the administrative stuff, and then all the tools that, I have at my fingertips, which was a very long story to say why I love working with business owners, because we have a lot of wonderful tools to help business owners, roll out their employee benefits programs. There's online enrollments and all sorts of fun stuff. So I could talk about that for hours because I get really passionate about our customer service model.
That's good. That's good. We're going to hear about that in a little bit. Let's take it on back. We heard about where you're from. So can you tell us what was your ready moment that made you like jump into this? You said you've been with them for 15 years.
Yeah.
That's an amazing record for a career.
Well, I'm old, so I've had other careers. I'm 54 years old. I've had several careers. Yes.
Sorry, I just got starstruck for a second. I'm like, there's
Oh,
no way.
starstruck.
I was like, there's no way. I'm not buying it.
I've had several careers. So the impetus of moving from New York to Arizona was, and I'm going to tell you the year, and you're going to go, oh, it was 2008.
Oh, you're
And
right.
my husband had been a stay-at-home dad forever. My boys were 9 and 5 when we moved out to Arizona in 2008. So he had been a stay-at-home dad since my 9-year-old was 1. I was in sales, but not health insurance. I was in advertising sales. Started my career as a little bitty, itty bitty baby out of high school in advertising, working for a big, big international advertising agency, and loved that. And then just ended up in ad sales. So things were not going well. Fast forward 2008, we were just financially, we were losing our house. I'll just say it, right? We were losing our
A lot of
house.
people were in that position.
Yeah, my husband ended up getting a job in the produce department at the grocery store down the street because it was just like,
Something's better than nothing.
we got to do something. And so we struggled for a little while, and then my in-laws. So I know my husband was one of those neighbors on the street in New York. So I've known him since I'm 8 years old.
Aw.
Yeah, and so his family is family. They're not just in-laws; they're family. And so they had moved out to Arizona a few years prior, and just said, "You have a place, like if you need, because like I said, we were losing our house and we didn't know what we were going to do, and so that was it. We packed up and we moved out there, and it was now time to start all over, find jobs, figure out where we go from here. And I ended up walking into an Aflac office. Aflac?
I am very aware with Aflac. They are amazing with their supplemental insurance programs.
Yes, yes, they are. And so basically it's commission only. So you walk in the door, and if you could, pass the test, the license, not their test, but you have to it's your regular health insurance license that you get from the state to sell Aflac. And so they help you with the training and help you with your test, and then boom, you have a job. So I figured, all right, it's commission only, but I've got nothing anyway. So did that for a little bit, and then found my now partner at a networking group. I went on to Meetup.
Oh, I've heard so many things about that.
I didn't even know it existed anymore because that was like back in the day before all the technology we have now. So I just found out recently Meetup was still a thing. But I went on to Meetup and found there was an event going on, and I walked in, and it would be like walking into, like one of the, Clayton Chamber of Commerce events, like a bash event or a Good Morning Clayton, something like that. I just walked into an event and ended up joining that networking group that was hosting it. And that's where I met my now partner. And he's like, "Are you happy? You're making a living?" And I'm like, "I mean, and that was it. I went. We were 3 people back then with our company, and just the man who started the company is a financial advisor, and so he'd been doing that for many, many, many years. It just kind of fell into health insurance, and then as that started growing, he needed people. So I've been in basically since the beginning, which is why I've been able to become, partner in the company, and I'm passionate and love it, and learned everything I know from these 2 great guys who are like family. And now I'll just see them once a year. I'll go back for our Christmas party.
Hey, that's great. You get to fly to where it's warmer, right? Because it is cold here. No, thank you. I say
No.
that because I'm a Floridian, and like when I moved here originally, I moved to Asheville, and I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
cool! Like never seen snow. This is great." And then I was like, "F this! I'm not doing this for 9 months out of the year." So I was like, maybe if I go like closer to the coast. So that's how I ended up here. I just didn't want. I wanted to be in North Carolina, but I didn't want to deal with snow and all that cold. It was just too much for me.
yeah. This last winter, I will say it was definitely colder than what I thought, but I loved it. I embraced it. I'm like,
Yes.
this is fantastic. Like people are complaining how cold they are. And I'm just like, being a New
You,
Yorker,
I was
I'm
going
like,
to say,
yes.
you and me, have you been anywhere else?
I love it. I loved it. Winter was great. And I don't even mind the summer. People are complaining. And I'm like, try Arizona.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, triple digits, it's a little bit much. I lived in Texas for a brief period of time, literally in the summer, and I was pregnant. Never again. I'm good.
Oh, that's rough. Texas is a
Yeah,
different kind of heat too.
it was. And like, you didn't realize that you felt like the heat exhaustion until it was too late sometimes. You're like, oh, I'm fine. Everything's good because it's so dry. No, I was pregnant. It was not a good. So moved back to Florida.
I think Texas has that combination of like the triple digit heat from Arizona and the humidity. Like you've got, I
It
guess, depending
depends.
where you are, but
Yeah, we happened to be in Austin, so it was a little more southern than the northern part. My
yeah.
family lives in the northern part. Anyways, sorry, off track. ADHD. Hi, it happens. It's a
Hello,
side
nice to meet
quest.
you.
I am leaning into it. I for years pretended I didn't have it, and now I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. I have ADHD. I do side quests, but you know what? We get bonus stories because of that.
Take me wherever you want to go. I'm on for the ride.
Right? This is so great. I'm so glad that we're doing this today. Thank you very much. I have my
Yeah.
notes, so I'm looking down at my notes because I have a great memory with the ADHD. So tell us where you are in your journey. So you've been here 15 years. Like, where are you looking to go in the future?
Um, yeah. So, I mean, I'm really enjoying right now all the new people I'm meeting and the relationships I'm building. So I'm really looking forward to, like I said before, fourth quarter is the busiest time of year for health insurance. So, and I didn't do anything in North Carolina last year. So I'm so excited. I'm working right now to like kind of poise myself to have a productive fourth quarter in North Carolina. Um, and it's just going to be a challenge. Because I've got all my clients in Arizona that need me and need me to service them as well. So it's going to be no one may hear me or see me from like October to December, like till after the holidays. Maybe I like to say I'm like a CPA at tax time. Like
Yes.
if you have a friend who's a CPA, don't ask them to do anything.
I know I can't talk to my accountant for like the first 4 months of the year. She's
Right,
like, just annoy me later. And I'm like, okay, I got you.
right. Leaving your texts unread. Like you get a text and you're like, "Oh, that's a friend." Yeah, I I can't answer you.
Like,
I'll
sorry,
answer
guys.
you in 3 months. Um,
Exactly. And that's great to hear. I'm glad that that works out well for you to be able to transition over here and do the same thing that you love. And I can see the passion whenever I talk to you. We met at a chamber event, I believe it was. Is that,
yes, at
I,
Cleveland, right? At the
yes, the
Cleveland
draft
Draft
house.
House. Yep.
Yes. And that was hosted by Irene Brooks, who will be coming on the podcast as well.
Oh,
Cannot wait to hear from
yay!
her. But I like to highlight the many different ways that you can network in your entrepreneur journey because there are so many different options. Our last podcast, we had talked about how Launch Joco was a big thing. Have you been into Launch Joco?
No. However, I joined the the Chamber of Commerce Workforce Development Committee, and so launched Joco, but I kind of joined towards the end of their like fiscal year. So I wasn't in on any of the events or the planning or anything like that. So what I've learned was Launch Joco like falls under their umbrella. So I'm hearing such wonderful stories. And so I will now get to be there for the start of the 2025 planning. And so I'm really looking forward to
That's
having
exciting.
some kind of opinion on what goes on.
Right? I'm loving it. I've been lived in Clayton for 5 years and I can remember when like none of the things that are happening were ever a thing. And I was like, man, what did I do moving to a small town with no opportunity? And I freaked out a little bit, but 1 year later, I was able to see that it wasn't this small town community that
Yeah.
had nothing. There was so much more to it. Again, I'm from a big city, so naturally when I walked in here, I was like, "Ooh, farmland. This is going to be nice because it's going to be quiet and I'm going to be
Yeah.
left alone," which is what I want for my own personal home. So, but then I started realizing, oh, like I want some of the big city, what do you call those? Like not attributes, but like opportunities.
Right.
And so I feel like the Launch Joco and the Chamber, like they have just, so many things have developed in just a small amount of time to really bring attention and commerce.
My mind is blown by
Same.
what this chamber does and what they contribute to the community and the involvement. Just mind blown. It's just incredible for the size of our town,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like
right?
we have a main street that in my opinion is like maybe, a couple of miles long and there's just so much going on that
Oh my
happens.
God, I love Main Street. I love Main Street. It's just
Yes,
so.
I'm so excited that they started doing more stuff. So when I first
Yeah.
came here, like the biggest event to me, because I love Halloween, was the trick or treat that they used to do. Oh, well, they still do it, excuse me,
Yeah.
but now it's a much larger scale. And
Right.
the 4th of July, oh my, I was like so excited. I went, if you guys follow me on TikTok, you can see my little thing where they had food trucks and games for the kids and
Hmm.
bubbles, like so much. Like I'm off on a
It's.
tangent about how much I love Clayton now.
I know. I know. So it's incredible to me. Like I said, I only started getting out and meeting people just in January. But if you spend an hour sitting in the coffee, in Boulevard,
Oh, my fave.
like how many people like walk in that and you say hello to.
I have
And
a
when I
great
listened to your prior podcast with people who have lived here a long time, I'm like, yeah, sure, they've lived here a long time, but I mean, I've just started meeting people 6 months ago, 7 months ago, and it's I love it. It's just again mind blowing.
It's the networking. I have a funny story. So when Boulevard was down at their original location,
Hmm.
I went in there one time with Victoria Johnston out of Tang, and I went to meet with her to kind of talk about the networking group to see if it was a good fit and all that fun stuff. And like I walked in, and immediately like 5 people walked up to her, and they were like, "Hey, girl," and they were like talking to her, and I looked at her with such admiration, and I was like, "I want to be you. Like I want
You're
to
like,
walk in." Yeah, I wanted to walk in and like have everyone know who I was. And she goes, "Girl, if you join this group and you're killing it, that'll be you someday." And I was like, and now it's happened, but like now it's happened on a different level because now I know the business owners, right? And I don't know the people as much anymore because we've grown so much.
right,
And I'm like,
right,
it's fabulous. And
yeah.
shout out to Boulevard West for being amazing. And we had some Bernie sweets with there in the same place together. We had some of those this
Hmm.
morning for our first podcast. It was awesome. Highly
Oh,
recommend.
yeah, yeah,
I just love that like things have changed so much. It's so great. So
yeah. When
circling
I'm
back
with somebody and they're like, "Oh my God, how do you know so many people or whatever?" I chalk it up to my hair because I feel like I've got the buzz cut with purple hair, and so like people are going to remember me. But and then whoever I'm with will say no, like it's not your hair. But that's I'm modest like that. I'm just like, oh no, they just remember my hair.
see, you can't see it because I'm not really great on the video right now, but
Yeah.
I have red hair and like that was my whole like claim to fame, right? And I thought the same thing, but it's become a signature and I even got my eyebrows tattooed the same color because I don't have any.
Yeah.
But people recognize your voice even too.
Yeah.
Like
That's
that's
true
my
too.
favorite. Like I'll be standing somewhere and they'll be like, "Oh my god, it's you," and I'm like, "It's me." I thought I heard you. You sure did. I'm
Yeah.
always
Before
like,
you know it, people are going to be saying, "Oh, I know you from your podcast."
I cannot wait. I am so
You'll drop
excited.
dead.
Hmm. I might freeze. I might be like, "What? You listen?" I just found out today that there is quite a buzz going on about the podcast, and I'm really excited about it because I wanted to bring attention to entrepreneurs. This isn't about me. I don't care about me. I don't want the
Yeah.
attention. I want it on my guests.
Yeah.
I want people to get to know you and like your story, why you're here, how you got here, what you do, everything. So that brings me to my next question.
Yeah.
How do you measure success in your company?
When somebody calls me or emails me and tells me they got my information from another client, an existing client of mine. Like, I love that. That makes me feel so good. That makes me feel like successful. Obviously, I'm doing something right if a client is giving my information. So, like, you and I met, and so maybe tomorrow someone will ask you if you know someone who does health insurance. And if you give my name, obviously that's amazing. That's, I'd be very grateful. But I think a referral from someone who's already a client, obviously I'm doing something right. So that makes me feel
1,000%. I
successful.
agree with that. I base mine on how many clients I can keep happy, and how many I can bring in based on my happy clients.
Yeah. Yeah. Like when you're on Facebook and someone's like, hey, do you know somebody who, details cars? And if the last experience I had was bad, obviously I'm not
Right.
responding to that post. Nope. Don't know anybody, you know.
Wouldn't know anyone. Sorry. But I definitely go and I hit following so that I can be like, all right, new chapter here. Try someone new.
Exactly. Exactly.
I
Yeah.
love that.
That's it feels so good, right? If when you get that phone call and they're like, Susie gave me your name. And you're like, yes, thank you, Susie.
And that's a lot of the reason why I love networking. So, what is your main marketing strategy in your business? How do you market to people?
I'm really just, getting out there right now. It's just all in person.
Networking,
The
essentially.
networking, just the networking. Yeah. And kind of like you mentioned, Irene Brooks.
Hmm.
So when I'm introduced to somebody who could be what I call like a power partner, where their clients and my clients can help each other. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
a health insurance client is probably going to be very likely to eventually ask me if I know somebody, or if I can recommend a care facility, and vice versa. Irene could have a client, or, like she said to me, a child of a parent who she has helped, say, you know what, I see what's going on with my parents, and, I should probably get some long-term care insurance, something like that, right? Like my parents are struggling paying for their care. Oh gosh, there's an insurance policy that can actually pay for that. Maybe I should get it so I don't find myself in the same struggle as I'm seeing my parents go through. And then Irene could say, oh, Cheryl does that. So I'm meeting people in Clayton who are in like synergistic businesses where our clients can be mutual, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's actually something that I talk a lot about is networking and the power of networking. Just me doing this podcast, I've been able to connect guests with other guests when they have a need. So I 100% believe in the power of networking. Something that we have on our Patreon is a little networking tips and tricks, and we've got stickers over there and stuff like that to support the podcast. But
Yeah.
elevator pitch help, things that I feel entrepreneurs need help in, whatever we're there to cover it. But networking is definitely a big part of a lot of businesses, and especially in, I don't want to call it a small town because I don't really feel like we live in a small town anymore. I really don't.
No, no, because like my friend who moved here a few years ago isn't out doing anything in the community. And so she can walk down Main Street and not know anybody, not run into a single person, or go in the complete opposite end of Clayton and, go to some store. And I mean, it can be pretty big depending on which angle you're coming at it from.
Oh, 1,000%. And that's what I love about this area is that there's the opportunity to meet new people, but also you got your friends and the I want to call them the staples of the community.
Yeah.
You know, so. But switching gears a little bit, would like to talk about some inspiration on your journey. Has anyone inspiration inspired you? I can't even talk.
Yeah.
Inspired you on your journey of entrepreneurship and kind of doing your own thing?
Um, I mean, I wouldn't say one person particular, just because, again, me being the age that I am, and having several prior careers, I knew that when I was starting over, that it was going to have to be something for myself, that I didn't want to rely on a company anymore, or, for my paycheck. And so I just kind of really inspired myself
I love hearing
to
that.
um, get it done, right? Just get it done, girl. Just, make
Set
a
yourself up for
dream, make a
yeah.
goal, and make a plan and put it into action. And I kind of just have slowly built that over the years where it's just for my family. It's, everything I'm doing is for us. Even though my kids are grown and gone, they're still part of the big picture.
Well, yeah, and they're probably part of your support network, which I always like to ask everyone, to tell me about their support system, like who is or was your biggest supporter and how has having that support helped you to achieve
Yeah.
success?
And my husband, 100%, because like I said earlier, he was a stay-at-home dad. So he has been supporting me even from when I did work for, big companies and, kissed him goodbye at 7:30 in the morning to, commute to work and then, come home to having dinner on the table. And because I'm gone for, 10, 12 hours, depending on traffic in New York. But he has always supported me. And we're kind of a yin and yang because I've always been an outgoing social person. And he's kind of, I don't mind being home, quiet kind of person. So when I'm like, okay, I'm going to some event or, the job I had many years ago where I kind of had to travel sometimes overnight or 2 nights, he's was always home taking care of things. And jumping into entrepreneurship wasn't even like a sit down, discuss it. Should we do this kind of thing? Because it happened at a time where we had no choice. It was,
2008 was rough. I'm going to be honest. That's when I lost my first cleaning company. I
mm,
remember this was in Sarasota, Florida. I had a little company called Southern Belle Cleaning. I had no idea what I was doing
yeah,
when I started it. I just kind of knew that I liked to clean and I could do it. So me and my mother at the time had the business.
yeah.
Did not turn out well for us. So in 2008, basically we lost everything and we had to start over. And I was working at Pizza Hut. I mean, I didn't know what else to do.
Well,
So
Florida got hit hard in 2008 because Florida was one of if people, without getting too into it, right? If people know the history of the whole financial
right.
crisis, right? It started with the housing market in Florida. So it's, I can't imagine what would happen to a cleaning business as
Oh, it
people
was
just started
terrible.
losing all their homes.
Yeah, and we lost our commercial clients and everything. It just seemed like one day we were on top of the world and the next day we had nothing and I had to live with my dad for a little bit as an adult with two children. That was fun and work two jobs and so that was my motivation to never have to do it again is to be an entrepreneur and here we are. Like I don't I don't want to put my livelihood in someone else's hands.
Isn't it interesting when when you have no choice? Like I know people who leave big corporate jobs to make their passion their life now. And that's a hard decision to make too, to give up the stability. But like for people like you and I, where you had no choice, you did it at a time when things were taken away from you without your consent.
A
Or
thousand percent. And I tell the story a lot on my podcast is that I actually not once but twice had this happen to me while trying to have a business. When I started the Other Mother Cleaning Company, I had filed all my paperwork in February and March 1st they shut down everything and I went, well, now what do we do, right?
yeah,
And so that was my first, well, I shouldn't say first, that was my second taste of you better figure it out because you have no other options. And I
right.
actually had a full time job at Walmart at the time because I was trying to do both, again, thinking I need the stability, but
You need
also
a
how am
paycheck.
I supposed, yeah, I need a paycheck, I need to start a business. So I took my stimulus money and I quit that job and I jumped in with both feet. And I'm really glad that I did because I would not have the opportunities I have currently. But it was a huge risk during a pandemic to just be like, F this, I'm out. I'm going to go start
Yeah,
a business. And I realized that a lot of people go, wow, you're really brave. And I'm like, I didn't feel like there was a choice.
right,
Did not feel like there was a choice. And I was also
right.
going through some marital problems at the time. And it wasn't good, but it turned out well. And I think that's like something I always want to highlight is the ability for entrepreneurs to be able to do that, to change gears and to fix a problem immediately even if they
Yeah,
don't have all of the pieces to the puzzle.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. You know, it's when I picked up and packed my family and moved, you know, from New York to Arizona, didn't have a choice. Moving back to the East Coast last year, that was 100% of a choice. I definitely could have stayed, but I also sort of felt like it wasn't a choice. I was just like, I don't, if I just stay here, I'm just letting things happen to me.
I'm so glad you said that because that is something my therapist mentioned to me. And they were like, do you know that not making a choice is still making a choice? And I was like,
Yes,
oh, why would you say that? They ruined my
I've
whole
heard
life.
that before. Thank you for making what I said sound
Yeah.
important and big, but
Yeah.
yes, not making a choice. Exactly. That's that. If I stayed, because you know things are comfortable and you've got a life, and you know I could let my kids just go off on their own, and we could just keep chugging along. And but it was time to shake things up again.
Yes, we get along so well. I love this because I'm the same with my life. I just, like I said, I moved from Asheville to here. I moved to Asheville on a literal whim. I went on vacation and went home, packed up everything within 2 weeks and moved back. No job, no house, no nothing. I was going to make it work,
Right.
right? Who does that? Apparently, people who are crazy. It's fine. But I did, and I made it work. I had a job within 2 weeks. I had a
Yeah.
house within a month. I mean, I moved into a rental situation, a cabin rental when I first got there. I wasn't like
Yeah,
homeless,
but
but
still.
then I ended up getting more permanent residency whenever I was there. And I was like, you know what? If I can make this work in a really hard entrepreneurial area, there is a sign going into Asheville that says entrepreneurial area, which is so bizarre.
Huh.
Yeah, it's on 40.
I haven't ventured up there yet. I can't wait. I'm very excited
Oh, it's a
to
great place to visit. I just don't ever want to live there again because being an entrepreneur there is a hell of a lot harder. I think you need more of a support system. And I think
yeah,
this is just me as an outsider, for being honest. I'm sure somebody who actually lives there would have a much better situation. But coming from an outsider, just coming in and be like, I'm going to do this, it's not
right.
easy, which is okay. So, what advice is most impactful, and what advice would you give someone that's wanting to be an entrepreneur?
Um, I think if you've got an entrepreneurial mind, that's a great place to start. If you've got an idea, like I mean, I didn't start this with an idea. Like nobody wakes up and says, I'm going to sell health insurance. It's so sometimes you just fall into things. And then I try to talk to as many people around me who have been doing it and, find out because I'm not reinventing anything here. I'm
No.
not, I'm not creative. So, just talking to people who are already doing it, who already have it figured out, who are already successful. And again, probably why Lunch Joco is so fantastic, right? Because these, it's people who are already are in business and are recognizing I can use some help. I could get some questions answered and maybe someone will put me in a direction I never even dreamed of. So, I mean, I think just talking to people and being open to suggestions and ideas. Because if
That
you're closed,
vulnerability.
yeah, you do. You have to be vulnerable. People, especially with networking, you walk into a room and you want to look important and confident. And you don't want to show somebody that, maybe you had a really bad morning before you got to that meeting and, a client asked you to do something and you had no idea how to do it or, you try to hide all that. But really, how are we going to grow and advance and improve if we don't find those, vulnerable moments where we're willing to ask questions? And I'll actually give you a great example. So I go to a networking event, a visitor day at 919 Networking, which I know is big in town. A lot of
Yep.
people belong to that group. And it's a BNI group. And then a gentleman was introduced who was kind of like the regional BNI guy.
Is it
So it was
Tony
like
or?
Tony, yes.
Yep. I know Tony.
Okay, so I didn't know him, never heard his name, no clue that he exists on the planet. So I know it was an exciting day for people in that group to have him there, right? Because he's kind of right this regional guy, and so they got him to come to their meeting, and the visitor day was a huge success. The room was packed. He speaks and he introduces himself as a health insurance broker, and I was like, "What? I have to talk to this guy." So I immediately, like, I made a, when it was over, when the meeting was officially over, and then people were just kind of milling around, chit chatting, I made a beeline, and I couldn't get to him fast enough to introduce myself and say, "Hey, yeah, I've been doing this 15 years, but I'm new to this market, and anything you can tell me would be greatly appreciated." And followed up with an email. And a few weeks later, I'm sitting in his office. And I mean, I just couldn't. He probably would have sat there all day. What a nice guy. What a really, really nice
That's
guy.
awesome.
And probably would have just sat talking to me all day. But I had to drive into Raleigh to his office. And so I was like, I got to go. I got to get back to work, to my home, to work. But I was just asking questions. And again, I'm doing this 15 years. So, like, it's kind of the same, but it's also, I couldn't wait to pick his brain and learn.
I love hearing that because immediately you lit up when you were like, yeah, I needed to talk to him. And that's what I love about networking is that you are going to be like, yeah, cool. We're in the same field. Let's talk. And that is so important. I don't view anybody in my field as competition because that's to me is crazy. We don't do that. It's collaboration
Yeah.
because if you treat them like competition, you're going to, in my opinion, sometimes you can tank the expectations and the prices for people like I do cleaning. And if
Yeah.
so and so is over here doing it cheaper than me, now that expectation is cheaper. We don't want that. I want her to level up, and I think we should all get what we're worth. So I love that
Right.
you were like collaboration. Let's go. That's fabulous. That's like the whole point of networking, I think, too.
Oh, yeah. And I have since sent him emails asking, advice on things or asking for help on something. It's like just knowing he's out there.
Yeah,
Because nobody in Clayton is doing what I do, which is wonderful. I mean, when I first started networking, there were several people that were like very excited to meet me, and again, going back to those kind of synergistic uh, businesses, kind of the power relationships. So several people were like, "Oh, I'm so happy to meet you," and nobody here is doing what you do. But the flip side of that is, who am I talking to? Who am I bouncing things off of?
exactly. And I think that's really important as an entrepreneur because we don't always know the answer. And there's somebody out there with, even if he has more or less experience, you can always learn something. So I always like to tell people network because you're going to learn something. Everybody has something for you to learn.
Yeah,
They just do. One of my favorite things is to go networking and then always ask, like I ask my podcast questions because I know it sounds weird, maybe not, but it's therapeutic to me to ask people about their journey in general.
yeah,
I just want to know like how you ended up in the situation, like why did you do it? Because their inspiration can become yours. It's amazing. So I love
yeah.
networking.
Yeah,
I
that's a
get
fun way to think about it, right? You're not looking for business necessarily. You're looking to get to know people and
well,
see what
I
you can learn from them.
Exactly. I'm a huge fan of Simon Sinek. I learned about him through TED Talks when I was in college. And one of his things is people always buy why you do things, not what you do. And he's not wrong. So I always try to put my why out there. And I want other people to learn about my why. I do everything that I do so that I can support my children on my own. I don't have to ask anyone for help.
Yeah,
I mean, ask for help if you need it. I'm just saying this is my own personal journey. I make sure that I could take care of my kids and my life and everything I need to do. So that's my why, and I like taking care of people. That's
yeah,
part of my why too. It's sometimes to a fault, but that's okay. That's okay. We need to learn as
yeah,
well.
yeah. Sometimes saying no is very powerful for ourselves, right?
It is, and something that I needed to learn on my journey and the whole entrepreneurship is I didn't have boundaries when I first started this because I didn't understand what that meant. I just thought, okay, I need clients and I need to make them happy. End of story. And I'll be successful. And as I grew a little bit more, I found myself in some situations that weren't necessarily the best for me or my company, and I had to learn how to create boundaries. So being able to
Hmm.
connect with other people, even if they're not in my industry, to ask them. I reached out to somebody who owns a mechanic shop, and I was like, hey, I'm having a problem with this. I know you deal with it all the time. Tell me how you dealt with it because I cannot figure it out. And it was just around setting boundaries. They
Yeah.
told me exactly what to say, how to say it, when to say it. And I was like, oh, perfect. So,
Isn't it a beautiful thing when you get to a point in your business where you can, maybe turn away a client because, yes, you chase everything when you're new. Like you said, when you're just saying yes to everything, every opportunity, and you're chasing it down. And
mhm.
those maybe you don't give up on those maybes, which is good. Those are growing moments too, chasing down those maybes for however long it takes. But to
Yes.
get to the point in your business where you can say, I don't, this relationship isn't working. I don't like the way this person is treating me, or what have you. And just to be able to, say no.
I agree. And don't be afraid to say no to anyone if it isn't a good fit, because you're going to end up hurting yourself by burnout, emotional, whatever it is. Just if you feel the answer is no, the answer is no.
Yeah.
Don't really have to explain yourself either. I've learned that. I don't have to explain myself. I can know as a complete sentence.
No, exactly. Exactly. We're full of all the cliches today, huh?
I love it. And that is why we do
Yes.
this.
No is a complete sentence. It sure is.
Just want to share all of our knowledge with everyone. So, how would you like to see your company grow from here? I know that you brought it from Arizona. Are you trying to
Yeah.
have a full-on branch out here, or what is your plans?
Yeah. I'd like to just see how far I can take it. This coming fourth quarter is going to be a good test to how much I can handle. The great news is we're growing to a point in Arizona where like they may bring on more people in the office there. So if I could start to unload a little bit of, my client base in Arizona, I mean, because I'm here to stay. I'm not going anywhere. This is not, a waylay station. This is, our roots now
I love hearing that.
forever. So if I could start to transition, it may take a couple of years, but yeah, maybe in 5 years, if I've got somebody taking care of my Arizona people and I could just be fully immersed, with a sustainable client base here. For right now, though, I'll tell you what I love is the time difference.
Yes.
So it's 3 hours. For the time being, it's 3 hours because Arizona does not change their clocks. I think they're the only state in the entire country that does not change their clocks.
Yes and no. So my family is from Indiana, Richmond, Indiana. They
Uh-huh.
also do not participate in the time change.
Oh, is it just in that one little area?
From my understanding, obviously I don't
Yeah.
travel that much, but yes.
Yeah, I had heard. Yeah, that sounds familiar. So for right now, it's a 3 hour time difference, and I am not really a morning person.
Same.
So I figure I've got my mornings here to kind of, have my cup of tea and play with my dogs in the yard and make my kind of personal appointments, right? Doctors, haircuts, all that stuff. And then flip the computer on, by like 11:30, right? So that's 8:30 in Arizona. That's a good time to start the workday. But then a flip side is I'll work into the evening, right? Because I want to, 5 o'clock here is still only 2 p.m. there. But I don't mind that. I know I don't have small kids. I, you know,
I
I
would
stop.
prefer it.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I stop. I make dinner. My husband and I eat dinner. I clean up. I go back to work. It's I don't mind it. So what will happen eventually if the plan works and I've got a really booming business here in North Carolina, I'm going to have to start my workday earlier in the morning.
Oh,
I don't,
no.
but that'll be, what do they say? Another cliche that I'm not going to say it right. Like a problem that's good to have.
Yes. It's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have. Thank you. It's a good problem to have, right? It means I've done something right. I've got the business, and boo-hoo, I'll have to do
It,
some
you
work
know,
early in the morning.
I feel you on that. I do have one. She's not small to me, but she's going to be 9 in October, and I have to drive her to school. So we get up every morning at 6 a.m., which I've hired a driver to do that because I just can't. It's my other daughter, but it doesn't matter.
It
I am
doesn't
just,
matter who it is.
no, I'm just not a morning person, and I cannot do it to save my life. So I feel you 1,000%, which is another reason why I love being an entrepreneur, because I get to control my time. With
Yes.
ADHD, like I have a later, was it circadian rhythm? So
Okay.
to me, I am up all night, and it sucks because my best time to sleep is always 3 a.m. till freaking 9:30.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily work with a real job. Not that it's not a real job, but you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
time clock person. And I love being an entrepreneur because I can always make sure that I am making my income, making my clients happy. And if something arises like Monday, I'm super excited to share this with you.
Yeah.
My daughter just got accepted into Wake Tech. I went to Wake Tech. So
Oh,
she's in the dual enrollment program from high
yeah.
school. And I love it. So we're going to go sign up for classes. But I had to contact a client and be like, hey, is it okay if I come later? I'm still going to make my money. I'm still going to make her
Yeah.
happy, but now I kind of can control if things pop up where I don't feel like I could if I wasn't working for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I always
That's
like to.
exciting. What does she want to do?
So she wants to go for cosmetology, and I'm really excited because
I
not
love it.
today, because don't judge me today, but she does with my hair, and I love it. And she's always getting me ready for the podcast. Like we had a in studio session last week, and she did my hair and made sure I looked really good.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of going to school
Aw.
and being able to get licensed. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. I love that.
So she's going to be on her own journey. So a little bit about me. I have 3 children. I have a son who's going to be 19 on Tuesday, and then I have a daughter who's going to be 18 in January, and then I
Yeah.
have another daughter who's going to be 9 in October. So I have 2 grown kids. I feel you on
Hands
that.
full. Hands full.
Yeah, and they're doing their own thing. My son, I'm so proud of him. He lives on his own. He's
Oh,
engaged. He's great. So he's kind of just doing his
wow.
own thing,
Wow.
not
He's got
in
life
town.
figured out already.
Yeah,
Good for him.
I was a little surprised that he did it so quickly, but he was like, "No, I want to be an adult today." And I said, "Oh, okay. Most kids wait till they're 21."
Today.
Yeah, my son, he has autism, so he's never been on time with things. I love this kid to death. He has done nothing but make me question my parenting the entire journey, because when he was 18 months old, he never walked, he never crawled, he never scooted on the nothing. He got up
Mhm.
at 18 months old and ran across the room, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, he's like, today's the day I'm going to do it, and I'm
Yeah,
going to
he's
do it
always
all.
been like that. And the same thing with riding a bicycle. He
Yeah.
never had training wheels. He just watched someone do it, hopped on the bike and took off. And I went, okay. And same with driving. I'm just like, and then I've got, my middle child, and she'll evaluate it and she'll do her thing, but sometimes she just up and does it. Now, vast difference because they're a year and a half apart. My son was not walking at 18 months. My daughter was 4 months old, and she crawled over to a Christmas tree box and stood up. And I was like, I don't think that's correct. Right? So questioning my
Yeah.
entire parenting journey.
Right, right.
So,
That's what our kids, that's what they do. They make us question everything.
they do. And that's what I tell you all this to tell you this story, is that when I decided to become an entrepreneur, I only had my kids as my support system. I don't have any family here. So I heavily relied on them for a lot of
Yeah.
things. So I always like to tell people, make sure you have a good support system. Make sure that you have things taken care of, because you don't want to end up in burnout, and you don't want to snap at your clients, and you don't want to mess stuff up.
Yeah.
So make sure you have at least one good person, because that's all it took for me to get where I'm at.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you want to talk about kids teaching parents life lessons and very unexpected paths in life. My older son is a drag queen, and my
I
younger son
love
is
this.
a professional wrestler.
That's vastly
So,
different. I love that.
so you talk about like when they show you who they are, and they put themselves on their life path, and it's just, I mean, I'm just along for the ride. I mean, I just admire them both so much. They teach me something every day.
They really do. Kids are awesome, and they are definitely there to check you. I'm going to be honest sometimes too, because they'll be like, "Do you really think you can do that, or should you be doing that?" And you're like, if somebody wasn't going to say it, because when you go networking, nobody's going to tell you that. They might, depends on who they are, but
Yeah.
most of the time they just support what you're doing, right? Or they'll like understand your journey.
Yeah.
My kids are like, "Listen, lady, this is not what you need to be doing."
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They are very, I think that might be a generational thing too, because would you ever even think about telling your parent what they were doing wasn't what they should be doing?
They got in a lot of trouble for doing it. I'm going to be honest.
It's definitely a generational thing, but yes, my kids are opinionated as well. Um,
That's great
but
that we've created such safe environments for the children to be
right.
able to tell us what's going on, which
I was
is
just going to say that. Obviously, we raised them that way to be vocal.
agreed. And I think it's a really good thing. And I don't feel like, yeah, sometimes it hurts a little bit, but if we're being honest, like we kind of need that harsh truth. I do, at least, to be like, oh, maybe you're right. Maybe I
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing this. Maybe that wasn't a good idea. You were right.
Yeah, I appreciate the lens, their lens, the way they're seeing it. It's just so completely different than the way I would. So it's not
It's
always a
true.
welcome opinion, but
And
it'll
your
make
kid's already grown. My little one, she well, I got two that are, but my little one, however, she gets a totally different version of me than my other two children. Whereas, the other ones, I was working two jobs and all this and stressed out and tired and couldn't function. And my little one's like, my mommy knows half the people in town. And I'm like, wow, like just to think about that is wow.
yeah. My mommy's a rock star.
Right. And like everybody knows my kids. And I'm like, this is such a great feeling, like to give her that too, because I'm showing her what it's like to own a business. I take my kids to all the networking events that I possibly can because
Yeah.
I want them to understand you got to do it's part of life, whether it's career, school, whatever, you have to network,
Yeah.
because it's always about who you know, not what you know. I've learned that. It's an entrepreneur
Abs-
lesson.
Absolutely.
I also talk with my
Absolutely.
hands, even though I'm not Italian. If I had to sit on them, I'd be quiet.
It is my Italian that is perpetually moving my hands. That's for sure.
I love it. My daughter, so my two older kids are half Italian, and my son, he sometimes talks with his hands. My daughter, I don't notice it. I don't think she does, but she talks with her eyes. Let me just tell you, she
Oh,
will tell it, and a whole story. Just okay, yep, whatever you said, gotta go. She's amazing. Look at me off on my ADHD rant about my children. So focusing back on this, do you want to
yes.
share with everybody your 30-second elevator pitch that you take when you go networking?
Yes. So I'm a independent health insurance broker. I love to help people who are in transition off of employer plans and need individual health insurance because it's scary and confusing. I love to help people turning 65 who are going on to Medicare because that is very scary and confusing. And I love to work with business owners who want to offer their employees benefits and help the employee understand how wonderful those benefits are. So I'm basically an educator. I mean, every time I sit down with a client, I'm helping them understand. And so I educate.
And how can our guests find you?
I am, I don't have social media except LinkedIn. And that's funny because I had not had my LinkedIn profile updated in years. And since I started networking in Clayton, I keep getting emails that your LinkedIn profile is being looked at. I said, oh my goodness, I think I better update the profile. So I got new pictures and updated my bio and all that. So so anyone can feel free to look for me on LinkedIn. I'm trying to post stuff to be a little bit relevant in my area of expertise. Um, and otherwise, I don't just look for me. Just look for Cheryl on Facebook.
And we will post, excuse me, there's my voice. We will post all of your contact information when your episode drops so that
Okay.
people can connect with you. All right. Well, I just want to thank you for coming on today. I appreciate it and sharing your story with us.
Yeah. Thank you so much for asking. It was an honor.
Absolutely. And we are still looking for ad sponsors. If you guys head over to Patreon, you can find our ad sponsorship and you can be featured on one of our episodes. Thanks, y'all, and
Yay!
have a great day.
Thanks, Dusta. All right, enjoy.